the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic trick. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Delier medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast here on this lovely Monday night, ready to rip and tear into everything that was in round 23 of the NRL Telstra Premiership season. Bit of a review podcast, but once again, we have a guest this week. We are joined by Joey from the Ruck Infringement Podcast. Joey, mate, how are you today?
Mate, I am fantastic. What a privilege to be on this awesome podcast with you.
Oh, look, I appreciate the kind words, mate. As a few viewers or listeners might know, we have worked together in the past on your podcast over there. Tell us a bit about what you do over on the Ruck Infringement Podcast, Joey.
Yeah, mate, for sure. So obviously you can find us on all social media or Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Mate, we just talk footy. We give a lot of banter with each other and some mediocre betting advice as well. So we've got lots of fun. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. So if you don't follow us, get over and follow us right now.
No, exactly right. If you're not following Joey and the Ruck Infringement boys, you're not doing yourself any favors. It's brilliant content over there. So highly encourage all of you listening here today. If you're not following them, go and do that. But mate, let's jump right into the team of the week for round 23. Now, I've got it up on screen here. At fullback, we've gone with Tom Trbojevic at fullback. There are a few good candidates in the fullback position, especially Caleb Ponga in that last game. The Parramatta and Penrith game, both fullbacks, Stain Laurie and Clint Gutherson, I thought they were good there, but had to go with Turbo here. The setters for this week, Herbie Farnworth joined with Tony Staggs. Both of these players scoring 2 tries. Staggs with a brilliant performance against the Cowboys to get the medal there. Love what they did. On the wings, we have Will Warbrick, joined by Fletcher Sharp with his 4-try performance. Into the halves, Luke Brooks, and I've gone with Blake Brayley. He was named at halfback, played a lot of hooker, played a bit of a pivot sort of role, just filling in everywhere, which was really good stuff from the Sharkies. So I had to go with him at halfback. Into the front row, Corey Jensen, joined by Josh Curran, Max Plath at hooker, and the back rowers. We have Felice Kafusi, Britt Nicola, Jack Williams, and the bench. Now, if you guys don't know, the bench takes form in the best outside back who didn't quite make the starting 13, the best spine player who didn't make the starting 13, the best forward who didn't make the starting 13, and the best bench player of the round. So we've gone with Brian To'o at 14, Clint Gutherson at 15, and Kurt Mann at 16, Sean O'Sullivan at 17. So that is the team of the week. We'll go a lot more in depth on these players when we get to the respective games, but had to get through that one a bit quicker. These podcasts have been going for quite a substantial long distance, so we want to sort of cut them down a bit here. So, mate, let's get into the first game of round 23. That was the Rabbitohs and the Storm winning that one 28-16. I'll start with you, mate. What were your key takeaways from this game? How did you find this one watching it, Joey?
My key takeaways were that I think Melbourne had one eye on this week with Penrith, because that second half performance from Melbourne was very, very poor. I mean, South started to come back. You give them probably 20 minutes. I reckon South's catch them in this one. So I thought Melbourne started red hot in this game, but I think they definitely had an eye on this week against Penrith.
100%, man. I actually had written down my notes. So I genuinely thought the Rabbitohs were considerably the better team in that second half. They played really gritty, incredibly gutsy performance by the Rabbitohs, and you really love to see that. Obviously, it's been a bit of a disaster season for them, but these sort of performances, when they come out and perform like this, you've got to be happy as a fan, considering all the injuries that they have, so many players out, to come up against the team coming first on the ladder and put them right to them. I thought they were really good in this one, the Rabbitohs. Yeah, you really do got to like what you're seeing from them. In terms of standouts, Joey, who did you like from the Rabbitohs in this one?
From the Bunnies, I thought young Fletcher Myers was really good. Scored 2 tries, can goal kick as well. I thought he was really good on the wing. But probably the man that I really liked, Cam Murray. And we know what a class act he's been over a long period of time. And I thought Cam Murray really stood up in this one. Bagged himself a nice meat pie as well.
Absolutely, mate. You mentioned Fletcher Myers there. In only his second game, he only came to the Rabbitohs club a fair few weeks ago, about mid-season switch from the Knights to get a shot and shore up their outside backs and their injury stricken side, and he's been fantastic since he came in. Showed a clean pair of heels to race away from Ryan Pappenhausen as well, just quietly. Mate, Jai Gray, I thought he was one of the standouts as well in this one. I really like what he's doing there. Every time that he sort of plays, he just plays all heart. For someone of his size, I absolutely love the way he goes about his footy. And, you know, Latrell Mitchell was due back later in the season. There's a bit of kerfuffle going on at the moment, whether or not we will see him in the back end of this year or whatnot. We'll have to see. But if Jai Gray gets an extended run, either, you know, at fullback or in the halves or whatnot, you've got to be happy with that as a Bunnies fan, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think any Bunnies fan would be happy with what Jai Gray is producing at the moment.
Yeah, mate, he's outstanding what he's doing. Over to the Storm, however, mate. Look, Jerome Hughes, he keeps this season going. Probably the informed player of the competition, the leader in the Dally M's, in my opinion. Just another great game from him. We mentioned last week with Cameron Munster coming back, he sort of overplayed his hand. How did you find their combo coming into this one? Did you think they were finding more of that balance between them?
Yeah, I think obviously when you have a key player injured in the sense of Cam Munster and trying to build that connection, it was always going to take a bit of time. And I think last week really showed that. They were very lackluster against the Dragons. But I thought this week Munster sort of started to hit his straps a bit again. I still don't think he's at his best where we know that Munster can be, but definitely getting back there.
No, 100%, mate. Look, we know Munster, that the ceiling of him is right up there with the very best in the competition. So for him to only be a couple games back and really striding into it, and keep in mind, the Storm, they got the win regardless, so it doesn't really matter about how they played in that second half. They are building these combinations. We think about this all-star spine that they have in Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes and Grant. They really haven't played much footy together. So it's just about building that for the back end of the season, heading into finals. And as you said, mate, I thought Munster and Hughes, the combo was starting to look a lot better. And Pappenhausen as well in this game, thought he was really good. Last week against the Dragons, he just seemed to not be able to get involved really, but I thought he was really good in this one. The other man I wanted to mention, Nelson Asofa Solomona into the second row, mate. How do you stop Nas on an edge?
Mate, you don't. You let him score a try. You just get out of the way.
It genuinely is as simple as that, isn't it? He's just, I would not want to throw my body in front of him. It's crazy that the sort of footy player he can be. Like on his day, he's so destructive.
Yeah.
Has a very, up and down season, probably on the downside for Nas. But yeah, seeing him in that second row, I'm like, not a bad little spot to be. Obviously, Eli Katoa probably due back next week, so we'll have to see what they do there. But I thought he was terrific, Nas. Beyond that, man that made our team of the week, Will Warbrick. I thought he was outstanding, not just in his try scoring in this one, but as an aerial target, they just kept going to his side, kept putting up kicks. And more often than not, he'd either come down with them or bat the ball back and just create more try-scoring opportunities. I think he started this season pretty slow, Will Warbrick, but I think he's been building quite nicely. What have you made of Will Warbrick's season, mate?
Yeah, mate. So I think he's definitely been building into his season. We've seen over the past couple of years, obviously he's been in the comp for a couple of years now, and he's when he first came through, he was a bit of a liability in defence, and we know the attack that he possesses, and I think he's starting to come full circle with both that defence and attack, and I really think this season especially, he started off slow, but imagine September, mate. That Melbourne Storm team, they're still not at 100%. If they're at 100% in September, they are going to do some absolute damage to other sides.
No, 100%, mate. I couldn't have said it any better. I think with the Storm this season, they've been at top of the table for essentially the entire season. A couple games clear of first place, only the one game clear of the Panthers now, I believe. But I've never really thought that they've got anywhere close to top gear. They've been putting together scrappy wins, which, the best teams do. They grind out those wins no matter what, whether they're pretty or ugly, they get it done. And the Storm have done that, but as you said, mate, they've still got a lot to come, and they're looking forward ahead to September, ironing out the kinks in their game, and players like Will Warbrick hitting their form now and hitting their straps now. This is the people that they need to really make that push come September, and I think they're going to be a very, very dangerous team when that time comes. As for the Bunnies, mate, look, as we said, really gritty, determined performance from them. I didn't think they were bad whatsoever. But, it's just been a tough old season for them. What do you think? Where do you think they go from here? Is it just test out new combinations? Who do you think they should be targeting for next year, mate?
Well, mate, they've got Lewis Todd coming over, and from all reports, he's a class act from the Super League. They've got Wayne Bennett back, but I'm not a massive fan of it. I mean, I know he brought a lot of passion to that club, and players want to play for Bennett. Like, I understand that, but I just think they've done it. They've already done it. Like, why are they doing it again? I think it's probably the wrong direction to go in, myself personally. I don't really know where they go from here. I think Latrell, we know how good Latrell Mitchell can be, but he's just not hitting those heights at South Sydney, not like he was at the Roosters. We saw what he can do in Origin, but it's sort of like he carves up in Origin, but then for club he just cannot bring that to his club form. So I don't know what we do there. Cody Walker, in my opinion, is getting a bit too old. I think Walker needs to look at possibly retiring. Whiten, I think, is still going around really well, and the best thing they could do was move him to 5'8". Look, we know Lewis Dodd will probably play 7 next year. Damien Cook's going to be a massive loss, but Peter Mamazoulis will get the job done. Mate, I don't know. Honestly, there's a few missing pieces there at South Sydney. As a Roosters fan, I enjoy seeing them so low, but I think, next year, if you ask me what they need, mate, I think it's a bit of a rebuild.
Yeah, well, if we're looking at that rebuild, they have announced the signing of Ewan Aitken today, which I think is a fantastic signing for them. I think he's going to look really good settling in on that edge position, presumably with Jai Arrow. But depending what they're doing with this Keon and Murray thing, they're probably going to lock up that other second row spot, which, look, I'm all for. To me, Jai Arrow has always been a middle forward, and I really hate the work of him putting him on an edge. So I'm hoping that next season, all players back on deck and healthy, they can really, push towards what we all thought and hoped for them this season. And that was, top 8, top 4 sort of footy, which we know they can get it in them. But yeah, there's a lot of things. We know their salary cap isn't good at the moment. So yeah, we'll just have to see if it ends up being a rebuilding year for the Rabbitohs next season, or if they can kick on with some of the form that they have displayed in patches in this sort of mid to late part of the season. But, mate, let's move into the second game of round 23, that being the Titans and the Sharkies. The Sharkies winning this one 44-0. Mate, did you see this one coming? Because I know I certainly didn't.
I did not, mate. The Titans have won 5 of their last 6, and I actually tipped the Tits in this one. I thought they would get it done. Look, we definitely heard it from Jai. He hasn't shut up about it since. But, yeah, mate, 44-0. Just incredible scenes there with no Braden Trindle, no Nico Hines. I gave the Sharks no chance in this game.
No, neither, mate. I mean, you can never sort of write them off, but as you said, the men that they're missing there, no Nico Hines and Braden Trindle. He named Blake Brayley at halfback. And sure, they got the job done against the Storm in Amy Park earlier in the season with essentially the same sort of thing. But keep in mind, that was with a late Nico Hines scratching. So they didn't actually prepare for that. They just had to rock up on the game day and be like, okay, shit, this is what we're doing. The fact that they knew Trindle was out and they still named Brayley at halfback, and they're like, okay, well, we're just going to go in with a defensive-minded attitude, which is great when you're versing the Titans, who have been able to put a lot of points on. But to keep that Titans side to 0 while scoring 44 of your own points without your 2 main halves, it is an incredible performance from the Sharkies. And I think this is the performance that, it's against the Titans, who they're at towards the lower end of the ladder. But I think this is the sort of performance that the Sharks haven't really had since they knocked off probably the Storm earlier in the season, or the Storm and Roosters in back-to-back weeks. We've been questioning them. I think this is that performance that really elevates them and go, okay, maybe when they're healthy, if they play in this sort of footy, this sort of gritty footy, they can challenge for a premiership. What do you think, mate?
Mate, I don't know. I'm still not convinced. I think they finished 5th. I think the Dogs might leap them and finish 4th. And I think Sharks finished 5th and, as per usual, out first week of finals. But that's just because I love Jai. I really want to say that. So, but no, mate, they're definitely building. I think I think it was definitely a statement game with the form that the Titans have been in to keep them to 0 is incredible. And I think it's part and parcel to Craig Fitzgibbon's game. Fitzy, what he brings as a coach is just incredible. He was one of my favourite players when he played for the Chooks, but he's just a workhorse and he just gets the most out of his players. So I think, full credit to Fitzy and the team just got up for him.
100%, mate. As you said, that is just a testament to Craig Fitzgibbon as a coach, and they knew what they were doing when they signed him, obviously sacking John Morris at the time, who had actually got the side to the finals as well. But, yeah, when you've got a coach as the caliber of Craig Fitzgibbon, those are the hard decisions you have to make. And performances like this, that really shows why they made that decision. I thought it was an outstanding display of coaching by Fitzgibbon to do this, essentially running out with extra forwards out there. Blake Brayley sort of played halfback and hooker in attack, defended, in the halfback position, so a fair bit wider than smack bang in the middle of the field, which short up their defense, which, probably why they didn't concede a point. But, yeah, I in no way saw them scoring 44 with Blake Brayley and Daniel Atkinson as your halfbacks with, the greatest respect to those players. So really good stuff from the Sharkies, mate. Who were your standout players for the Sharkies in this one?
I think he couldn't go past Iro in the centres. I think what he has done coming in this year and has pretty much kept his spot all season, and he is going to be an absolute superstar of our game. I thought he was very, very good in the centres.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think he's another one who's warmed into the season a lot as it's gone. And keep in mind, he's a little bit older than straight, normal debutants, but he's still a very young player and essentially still in his first full season of NRL. And he's been good, solid the entire season. But I always thought that when he came in, he was going to be the highlights reel player and he'd have these big, exciting moments. And he hasn't. He's just consistently worked about it. And the big thing about that is when you get down and you knuckle down and do the hard stuff, normally those highlight reel plays and those tries and assists, that you get rewarded with them in the back end. And I think that's exactly what's happening with Kale Iro right now. He was outstanding. That move that he put on the left-hand side when he ended up putting Stone Street away for that second try, that was beautiful to watch, for lack of better words, to be honest. I think he's been going fantastic this season. Mate, another one I wanted to sort of give a shout out to, Jack Williams starting at lock forward. I thought he produced probably his best game of the season. Probably, maybe even his best game of his career. What do you think about Jack Williams in this one, mate?
Mate, Jack Williams a few years back when he first came onto the scene was touted as the next Paul Gallen. He was touted as the man to take over from Gal. Everyone was high about him, and then he was playing off the bench. He wasn't starting. He was playing off the bench. He wasn't getting the minutes. I don't know why he is still playing on the bench. I know he started 13 in this game because McInnes moved to hooker and Brayley to 7, but Williams needs to be starting. He's such a good player, and he just brings that level of professionalism as well. And so I think you need to have him there around the team. He gets the guys going, and he got himself a nice little meat pie to go with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that is exactly why he ended up getting the lock position in our team of the week, or in my team of the week. He was, genuinely fantastic. Only played 60 minutes, which is decently high for obviously someone that's been averaging minutes off the bench. But in those 60 minutes, he punched out over 200 meters and a try in that. He was outstanding. And as you said, I think he definitely deserves the starting spot. The best part about Jack Williams is he's so versatile. You can play him at lock. He's well and truly adept at second row. You can play him straight in at the front row position. Not that they're lacking front rowers at the club, the Sharkies, but with performances like this, you've got to question why it's taken so long for him to be their starting lock forward. Obviously, hard to move McInnes out of that position with the way he plays, but they've got to find a way. They've got to find a spot for Jack Williams, to be honest. Mate, look, let's move over to the Titans. Really hard to find some positives in this one. Essentially, they were still in with a shot of playing finals. Now, it was very highly unlikely, but this loss rules that out. It's just been a trend of recent weeks with these teams playing for their seasons, coming out with some of their worst performances of the year. The Warriors did it last week. The Broncos did it last week, and the Titans this week, coming off their great reach of form in the Gold Coast. This was a home game for them, and to not put on a point against the Sharks when they're playing for their season. Yeah, I don't know what to say. What have you got, mate?
Mate, I've been so high on them the past month. I think Desi's had them firing, and it's been so good to see because I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Titans. I really like some of their players and the way their play style as well. But, mate, this game, it just looked like they forgot how to play footy. They get to the Sharks' 10-metre line, and they didn't know how to convert to points. They didn't know how to get over the line. It was like they went back to grassroots footy again and not knowing how to play. And it baffled me. I watched this game and I was screaming to throw it left, throw it right, get it out to the wingers, and it just wasn't happening. It would get to a second rower and then the play would stop, or it'd be fifth tackle and they wouldn't kick. They'd run it instead. So I don't know what went wrong because they've been so good over the past 5 weeks.
Yeah, mate, I can't put my finger on it either. Yeah, there were moments that I thought Keanu Keeney was quite good. He's always electric and trying hard. There were moments I was looking at Kieran Foran and he kept trying, but nothing. It's like the players around him they weren't moving. They were lethargic. They just flat-footed, had the boots on, and they weren't really moving. Jaden Campbell came up with a few, forced dropouts where he was just trying to conjure something for himself. It just really felt like that no one in this Titans team besides those sort of 3 players wanted it. They were just sort of there to make up numbers. And it's really worrying signs when you've got, as I said, the season on your line. Now, it's been a pretty disappointing season for the Titans, especially where they started. But as you said, over the past, 5-6 weeks, they've been really, really good. And just a really disappointing one in this one. There's not too many standouts. It's rules out their finals chances, which, it's a fair play for their season. It hasn't been the greatest of years. There's a lot to build for next year, especially with the return of Tino, AJ Brimson. Hopefully we get a full, healthy season out of him. Whether or not, they play him at fullback, center or whatnot, that remains to be seen. Who knows what the Titans are going to do there? I don't think anyone on earth does. But look, mate, let's move into the next game. One of the games of the round, in my opinion, the Eels going down to the Panthers 34-36. I've got a feel for the Eels here because I thought they were the better team by, a fairly substantial margin for 75 minutes of this contest. And then they took their foot off the pedal, and in 5 minutes, the Panthers showed that, they can come back from anywhere, as they did against the Broncos in the grand final, mate. Like, what can you say about this Panthers team, man?
Oh, mate. I thought I was an absolute genius. I was the only person in my tipping comp that took Parramatta. Everyone else had Penrith. I said, throw the form guide out the window. Parramatta will turn up. And they turned up for 75 minutes. And they just shut down. They shut down. They thought, we've got this one. And against this Penrith team that you cannot do that. You need to play right to the 80th minute. And it was just absolutely incredible to watch Nathan Cleary just control this team and just get those 14 points. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And then the penalty goal, Clint Gutherson opts for a goal, which makes sense. You're going to level it up at that stage. And 20 out, not really that far out towards the sideline. So I was surprised he did miss that. But, yeah, mate, it just there's a lot to like about this Penrith team, and they just keep doing this week after week.
Yeah, mate, there must be something in the water with goal kickers at the moment, because between CHT a couple of weeks ago, Gutho here, all these conversions that can tie up or win you a game, and they're just getting missed. And it's like, what is actually going on? Even Jamal Fogarty in the Raiders game, which we'll get to, he had that a kick which would have put him in the record for the most consecutive kicks in Raiders history, and essentially from the same position, like 10 out, a little bit beyond the post, and he absolutely shanks it. And it's like, what is going on with these world-class kickers? Like,
that was commentator's curse, mate. They mentioned it and then he missed it. So,
mate, there's a few commentators' curses getting around. It has to be a real thing. I refuse to believe that the commentator's curse isn't like a factual, scientifically backed thing, because it is crazy how much it happens. But, mate, as you said, you were almost a genius with this one. I thought, the Eels, they typically do get up against the Panthers. They've got that rivalry. Yeah. They're the bogey team of the Panthers. But with the outs that they had, and Panthers essentially full strength going into this one and trying to really push for their form in the back end of the season heading into finals, I didn't give the Eels much of a hope. And to see them come out and be as good as they were, I love to see it. I'm all for an upset. And it really does show that there is some of that Eels DNA from their 2021 season of that grand final. 2021, 2022, they made the grand final. Yeah. There's still some of that DNA left in the club, which is good signs for Jason Riles coming in to rebuild it. Hopefully he doesn't have to strip it bare bones. But yeah, you just, against the best sides like Panthers, you cannot afford to relax. And yeah, the Panthers, they really showed that. They made them pay. Nathan Cleary controlling the game once again and coming up with those clutch moments. Once again, though, I think it's been a bit, bypassed in his season, or at least his return from injury. His defense has been quite poor since coming back, mate.
Mate, the whole Panthers outfit, I was going to say, I think it was great that they got the win, but I don't think Ivan would be very happy that they let in 34 points. I mean, this is a team that's pushing for a four-peat, and over the past few weeks, we've seen them have to come back in a few games. Against the Knights, they were level, and the week before against the Dolphins as well. So it was only that Dragons game where they led from the front and blew them out of the water. But 3 out of those 4 games, they've been behind and they've had to come back. So how long can this team keep doing it? And yeah, the defence, a bit of a concern at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really weird season, mate. We mentioned, the Storm having a few of their scrappy games, obviously losing last week and even not being too convincing against the Rabbitohs this week. The Panthers in their last few games haven't been entirely convincing. These are still the teams that we say that they're the teams to beat. But look, every team can challenge for it with the way that all the teams, the top dogs are really playing. Roosters, obviously on the bye, your Roosters, mate. But, they've been conceding points. So I don't really know. I don't think anyone can really confidently say there's a team to beat. I think anyone can get up for it in this day. And maybe the best example of it is the team that we're about to talk about, the Raiders and the Seagulls up next. Seagulls putting 46 points on the Raiders, mate. Are the Seagulls a sniff?
Oh, mate, they're definitely a dark horse. At the start of the year, I had them as a dark horse in the top 8. And then they went to Vegas. They did really well. They dropped off for a little bit in the season, and they started to win again. I think this team has really been boosted by Luke Brooks. There was a lot of talk about him coming from the Tigers and everyone saying, he's had his time. But I kept saying a sea change is what he needs. He needs a change of scenery, come to a team with fresh faces, a play where he can play his style of footy, and he's done that. He was my 5'8" of the week in my team of the week. I thought he was outstanding in this game.
100%, mate. I think essentially since he came in, he may not be their best player over the entire season. I think he's right up there. I think by the end of the season, when the Seagulls give out their awards, the fact that he's been there for every game, and I don't think he's really had a shocker. He's been very consistent all season. And as you said, it's just a change of scenery. We know he can be a fantastic player. He was highly touted since he came through the ranks. He won 2018 Dalian Halfback of the Year. He's flourishing in this 5'8" role. I think he's a massive contributor to the Seagulls' success this season. And I really do think they're a sniff of going all the way. Now, they did concede a few late tries, which brought the score for the Raiders out to 24, which sort of flatters the Raiders, but it also means Manly, they're guilty of also taking their foot off the throat. So we'll have to see if they can really put the foot down for the rest of the season. But there are a lot of good signs for the Seagulls, Luke Brooks being one of them. Another one, of course, Tom Trbojevic. I mean, every week, he's just an absolute superstar, mate.
Mate, if he can stay fit, it'll be really, really good for the Seagulls moving into September. I just hope that there's no injury on the horizon.
Mate, don't we all? You don't want to see players get injured at the best of times, but players like Tom Trbojevic who have had that history, and you just want them to have a run of good form, a run of good consistent footy with no injuries hindering them. That's what we all want to see. And it is terrifying things for the rest of the competition if he can just stay fit and healthy, because the other thing to like about this one, I thought Daly Cherry-Evans really took a back seat. I mean, you mentioned Luke Brooks being in the team of the week. He really took over this game from kicking to running to directing. Daly Cherry-Evans, he might have had the flu or something. He was hardly involved in the game, and they still scored 46 points. So they're a real danger side, the Seagulls, and they got threats in every position. As for the Raiders, if last week's effort didn't, finish their season, this one certainly does. It's been a tough season, but keep in mind, they were a lot of people's favourites for bottom, 2 this season. I think they've definitely punched well above their weight this season, and if this is the end of their season, they're not making finals, so be it. No one really thought they would. I think it's been a really good building year for them, and I think with Chevy Stewart getting more experience under his belt in the NRL and New South Wales Cup, they're going to be looking pretty dangerous in the years to come, mate. What do you think of the Raiders?
Yeah, mate. To start off, I had them as wooden spoon. That was my bold prediction. One of my bold predictions for this year. I had them getting the spoon. I thought the loss of Jack Whiten was huge for them. And then when they lost Jamal Fogarty, I pretty much wrote their season off. Thought Ethan Strange, what he's done this year has been amazing, to play almost every game and every minute of in this team and consistently at 5'8" as well. And KO Weeks, the way he's adapted his game from 7 to fullback, I thought he's been electrifying as well. But, mate, I want to talk about Jordan Rapana now. Rapana, he sort of revitalised his season a bit this year. I thought he was really good this year, and he's been given another deal, which I think is great. But he's just a classy player. He's a player that, can play fullback or wing if you need him to, and he'll always get the job done. But my concerns about Canberra this season was GIO used to be a fortress. You go to Canberra, it was cold, you didn't want to play there. The Raiders were just relentless. That hasn't happened this season. We saw this game against Manly. They had 40 put on them. And earlier in the season as well at GIO, they just haven't been able to execute like we know in the past. And, of course, Ricky Stewart wasn't happy again, but what's new?
No, you're absolutely right, mate. And I think I've been guilty of thinking it is as well. Like coming into this game, even from the super coach and fantasy sort of side of things, a little bit worried about those looking to captain Tom Trbojevic in this game. I'm like, look, you're up against Canberra in Canberra playing for their season. Like, I'd be terrified of that. But I don't know. GIO hasn't, as you said, really been that fortress of theirs. Even last week, there have been so many occasions where I'm like, I'm going to take the Raiders simply because they're playing in Canberra. And it is just a terrible, you don't want to make that road trip to the cold of Canberra. But yeah, they have really sort of lost that. And it's been a bit of a shame. They've had a few milestones across this season as well. And the players really haven't got up for this one. Now, Papali'i's 300th was the week before this. But this was the game that they got to celebrate him at home in front of a home crowd. You'd think you'd lift for that sold-out stadium. And, it just didn't really happen. But, mate, you also mentioned Ethan Strange in there and KO Weeks. Yeah. We'll throw them in together. Tremendous seasons for both of them. I also thought they were both fantastic in this game. Now, Ethan Strange, he had that runaway down that left-hand side, which he, didn't end up scoring a try because they found a Rapana and knock on. KO Weeks, though, I will say I was a bit guilty in not really ever seeing what KO Weeks could bring. Now, I always thought he was more of a fullback than a halfback, and he made a bit of a fist of it in that halfback row in the mid part. He did an admirable job. He could never fulfill Jamal Fogarty's shoes, but no one really could with what they needed at the time. But since he's been moved back to fullback, he's actually been fantastic, and I never really saw this sort of player in KO Weeks. So I want to give him my applause as well, and my apologies for ever doubting him. But look, as I said, there's a lot to build on for the Raiders. I think giving Rapana another deal is a great thing for them. He just leads for this club. Obviously knocked out in this one, didn't get to play too much, but he tries so hard, and he's such an inspiration for all the younger players coming through. So I love the idea of giving him another deal. Remains to be seen what they do with their young forwards and Papali'i and whatnot as well. But there's a good basis there at the Raiders, and I hope they can come back strong in the coming years. Mate, let's move in to the next game. Talk about an upset here. The Brisbane Broncos defeating the North Queensland Cowboys 42-18. Mate, I did not see this one coming. I mean, there's a few results this week I did not see coming. I had the Cowboys pretty heavy favourites in this one. They've just been playing really consistent footy, really top tier. The Broncos been floundering, and then they come out and put 42 on them. Oh, what can you say, mate?
Well, mate, you know my feelings about the Broncos this year, and I've been pretty spot on so far. But, mate, no Payne Haas, no Ezra Mam. I gave the Broncos absolutely no chance. I had Cowboys by 30+.
30+?
Yeah, 30+. I thought Cowboys were going to absolutely destroy them. Carl Webb, getting up for Carl Webb and retiring the number 12 jersey. Of course, then I went off early, but I just had Cowboys winning this. And, they've got into the top 8. They've been playing some good footy, and then they come out and put on a performance like this. But look, credit to Brisbane, they're still mathematically alive. I don't think they get there.
No, I don't think they get there either, but who knows? Stranger things have happened in rugby league, and a performance like this against their arch rivals and their Cowboys, maybe it can get them there. But even if they were to make it without half of the rest of the season, I'm pretty sure Mem would miss first week of finals anyway if he was to return, if the Broncos were to make it to finals. I don't think they can do too much this season without them. It's been a really disappointing year, but you got to love games like this, especially, as I said, against the arch rivals. I thought it was right before halftime that the dagger really hit, or it might have been right after halftime. I think it was right before halftime that the Broncos survived a little scare on a Drinkwater try, and then they went up the other end and just scored on the same set. And it seemed to just kill the Cowboys' confidence. They were riding high and playing some really good footy in that second half. They were up at halftime, and then to let in that many points in the second half, it's pretty inexcusable, and it's worrying signs for their finals hopes as well. What do you make of them heading into finals? Do you reckon they're still a sniff, the Cowboys?
I haven't really given them a sniff much here at all. I think obviously they're going to be around there, but if they can't beat a team like Brisbane without arguably two of their best players in Haas and Mam, then how are you going to compete with the likes of the Roosters, Storm and Penrith? So I just think the Cowboys need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, focus on the small things. I feel like the Cowboys try and do too much expansive footy. They try and throw the ball out when it doesn't need to be thrown out, and they try to do things that they don't need to do. So I think if they can simplify their game, they'll go a long way in this competition.
100%, mate. You also mentioned the medal in this one, the Carl Webb medal. Tony Staggs picking that one up for the Broncos in the inaugural game. What a beast he was. It's so frustrating knowing that he can just, whenever he wants to be the best player, not even just best center, but one of the best players in the entire game at the flick of a switch. And then just every other week of the competition, he just decides not to. But God, what a performance from Tony Staggs, mate.
Mate, he was absolutely incredible. And look, off contract soon. I think he's going to want to return home to Sydney. So come on, the Chookies.
Oh, mate, you got a bit of cash to slash, and even when you don't, you do the bloody shit. So, look, it wouldn't shock me if they do snag a Tony Staggs at some point. Who knows? That would be a scary sight if maybe a change of scenery is what he needs, because maybe a top-tier coach. Imagine him under a Craig Bellamy. Good God.
Yeah. A Trent Robinson. Oof.
Mate, it's not happening. But bugger off. If you guys get Stags, I'm not watching footy anymore. But no,
mate, we need a centre for 2025. So
Yeah, mate, you do. But look, what a performance from Tony Staggs. Really love to see that. We mentioned the entire, Broncos in their entirety. They were really good. Reece Walsh, a lot of people talk about him as the pretty boy, and he does all the highlight reel stuff, and not so much as a tough player. But early in this game, he had that what looked to be a hand or a wrist injury. Not sure if there's any news that's come out about it, but it looked pretty gnarly, and he was struggling with that from very early on in the game. And he played the entire game and put on a fantastic performance as well, despite really not having too much function in that hand/wrist. So, I've got to give raps to Reece Walsh. What did you make of his performance, mate?
I don't know if that injury was legit, mate. He seemed to turn his game completely around after that. It was like it was a little bit fake there, but nah. Look, we never want to talk about player injuries. I thought Walsh was very good in this game. That runaway try of his, he's just got so much speed. What I love about Walsh is that he can have, 2 or 3 errors in his game, but to 2 or 3 errors, he's got about 9 or 10 points that he makes up for the team. And he just, if he throws a bad ball, then the next one is a perfect cutout to his wing. He just knows how to get the most out of them. And it's a really scary prospect because he's so young. And what is he going to be like when he's, 25, 26 years of age in the prime of his life? He's going to be absolutely incredible. But, yeah, mate, he was outstanding.
100%, mate. I remember when it might have been either in his debut season for the Wales or maybe his second season. But there was a game where I think we were down by 1 point or something, or maybe we were trying to win the game. And he took about 3 or 4 snaps at field goal. And it's the fact that, if you miss that first, your confidence just gets shattered, as most players do. But at such a young age, and then the big, big moment, he just kept putting his hand up and kept going at it. And that's, as you said, for every, 3 errors he has, he does have 10 points in him. He's just that sort of footballer. And as he matures, those 3 errors will go down to 2 and go down to 1.
Yeah.
And the points, they might even go up from 10 points in him to 12 to 14. So, yeah, I think the future is insane. If he can keep himself, out of the spotlight and not get into any nasty stuff and just have a nice little career ahead of him, I think he could go down as one of the best. For what he's doing at his age, it's just mental. And obviously needs to win a premiership. Was very close to it last year and not so close this year, but yeah, got to love that. Look, as for the Cowboys, yeah, I know it's a really tough one to sort of measure. I really thought they were in this one. As I said, that try, the no try to Drinkwater and then the try to the Broncos straight after was the killer in my opinion. But look, in the end, you can't really be resting on one moment. You can't live or die on that one thing. Really disappointing from them. Not necessarily fighting for their season, but they still are in danger of falling out of the 8. So you want to be putting these ones behind you, especially against your rivals for the Carl Webb medal. So really disappointing. I'm sure all Cowboys fans out there are really disappointed in this one, but we'll have to see how they bounce back heading into next week. In terms of standouts, I mean, not a whole lot for me. Did you have any standouts for the Cowboys?
Oh, not so much. I was going to say we haven't really heard from our mate Bergs much at all about his side losing this game. But, shout out to Bergsy. But, mate, standouts for the Cows. I didn't have many. I thought Dearden was good, but I feel like Dearden is good every week and he tries to get this team back in the fight. But I couldn't really give a standout. I thought Valentine Holmes, you look at Katoni Staggs and he absolutely destroyed Holmes. And, Holmes is coming off contract. Teams are trying to make a play for Holmes. I think they're going for the wrong centre. He just got absolutely burned by, his opposite number in Katoni Staggs. But, yeah, I don't know what's next for the Cows.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Look, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to really give Bergs too much shit this week with the Warriors' performance, but
of course you are,
someone
mate.
out there again, mate, always in a position to give Bergs shit. But yeah, it's a tough one for the Cows. As you said, Tom Dearden was good. He is good in every game. I always said that. I think it was a few weeks ago. I said that with Ruben Cotter and Tom Dearden in the side, it just doesn't feel like a side that should be losing. Like those two players are just they're the sort of players that like they don't lose games. To me, you just can't see them losing. And yet the Cowboys are losing. So, yeah, we'll have to see how they bounce back. They can still make a good run, but this is definitely a really disappointing loss for their season. Mate, let's move into the next game. The Dragons and the Bulldogs. Bulldogs winning this one 28-10. Look, I tipped the Dragons coming into it after their great win last week. I thought this was going to be a really good, gritty sort of performance, going through the forwards, which it was. It was a really entertaining game from that aspect, but the Bulldogs once again turning up and getting the job done. What can you say about the Bulldogs at this point of the season? They just keep getting it done, mate.
Mate, how good is this team? I wasn't convinced about the Dogs. There was so much hype on them this year, and everyone's been going. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing okay. Like they're in the top 8, first time since 2015. Like it's pretty amazing. But there was so much hype from everyone about them. There's obviously the I think Winston's up to about 47 things now that have happened since to make the Dogs make the grand final. So shout out to Winston Neville there. But I just. The way that they've now their defense has been great all year, but the way that they've now transformed that attack as well, and I think the attack was the missing piece for them. They had the defense, but they couldn't turn that into attack. Where now they've got both, and it's a really scary prospect for this team because we know they've got such attacking weapons. You got the Fox and Critter on one edge, and then Bronson Cherry with a double in this game. And as you spoke on, I tipped the Dragons as well. Dragons at home in Wollongong are usually a different beast, but they just couldn't get over this strong doggies outfit.
Mate, again, you've hit the nail on the head. You touched on everything that I sort of wanted to touch on. We know Stephen Crichton this season, the best centre in the NRL, one of the best players in the NRL, and I don't think that's an understatement. And, essentially he's almost locked in for captain of the year and centre of the year. But Bronson Xerri, that's the thing. You do have that attack on this left-hand side. The speed of Xerri and the Fox is terrifying to the workhorse of Kiraz and Stephen Crichton on the right. They're just such a well-balanced roster, and they can attack you from anywhere. You put too much emphasis on defending Stephen Crichton, and then you get these Bronson Xerri sort of games where he scored those 2 tries in about 5 minutes of each other. I've got to stop doubting them. I keep looking at the side and I go, they're missing something, but what are they missing? Their performances really sort of beg to differ. And Sam Hughes, the big one, I think everyone has always questioned if their forward pack's been up to it, especially with Max King being out.
Yeah.
Sam Hughes, I think, has just stood up all season. I don't recall Sam Hughes really having a bad game. He hasn't had 10 out of 10 performances, but he hasn't had a bad game of someone in his debut season. A lot of people talking, Ethan Strange, maybe a Jack Bostock Rookie of the Year, and I do think that they deserve it. But Sam Hughes has just slid under the radar with the rest of this Bulldogs team. He'll be right up there with the Rookie of the Year rankings, in my opinion, Sam Hughes. I really appreciate what he's been doing this season, mate.
Yeah, mate. I think him and Joshy Curran as well. I mean, Joshy Curran, to be able to play in lock, second row and front row has been incredible. But Sam Hughes was the player that Gus Gould said at the start of the season was the one to watch for the Dogs this year. So it's sort of come full circle for Hughes. But, yeah, he's having a great season.
Exactly. And when Gus Gould says something like that, you normally have to listen. He said it about Jacob Preston last year, and we know the superstar that Preston turned into. But it's really good seeing these. Not sure if they're technically homegrown products, but the fact that they're making their debut at the club, I really love that sort of presence from them. To me, Jacob Preston and Jacob Kiraz, they bleed doggies. They just feel like doggies to me. Sam Hughes is putting his name in that market as well, mate.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Preston are Roosters junior, so, we'll take him back if we need to. But, yeah, no, they're definitely setting the world alight.
100%, mate. Look, over to the Dragons. They weren't awful, let's be honest. I think that they kept trying. They didn't really have the points in them, but normally they can just grind out a win. It's really hard to grind out wins against this Bulldogs team, unfortunately for them. A bit of word coming out as well that Ben Hunt isn't sure whether or not he's re-signing or if he's going to retire heading, into the back end of his career. So we'll have to see where the Dragons go from that. They're very much still a chance for the top 8, though, and they're a team that was the favourite for the Wooden Spoon this year. So if they were to lose every game for the rest of the season from here on out, I think it's been a great season from them, and I still think they'll snag a few here and there. This is just one that got away from them in their finals aspiration hopes, mate.
Mate, they're the hardest team to tip.
Yes.
They win 1 week against Melbourne, haven't won there for 25 years, and then they lose this game at home. They're so hard to tip. I interviewed Shane Flanagan early in the season, and you know what he brings to a side. He's so gritty, and he gets the most out of his players, and players want to play for Flano. And he was so high on this team, and I don't think I had them down the bottom. I think I had them around that 9th or 10th position, which is where they're sitting now. But this game was really disappointing for me because they went to Melbourne last week and they played out of their skin. And I think that was sort of their grand final game. And then they come here. It's a local derby, it's a big game, Dragons and Doggies. They don't really like each other that much. And the Dragons just didn't give what they gave the week before. Ben Hunt and Zach Lomax were best on ground against Melbourne. And it was just sort of non-existent in this game.
No, exactly right, mate. I mean, you said exactly what Berg said last week. He cannot tip the Dragons to save himself. So, and look, in fairness, I haven't been able to tip the Doggies all season as well. And sure enough, I get this tip wrong as well. So that's another one of those ones where I just can't tip these two teams, mate. So, yeah, look, it is a bit disappointing when you put it like that. The fact that they did go and get that amazing win against the Storm in Melbourne, and then they have this performance. As I said, it wasn't like the worst performance in the world, but it is disappointing when you aren't riding the high of that massive win. You're taking this one to a sold-out home crowd as well. This is a real statement game for them, and they didn't really put anything on. So it is disappointing in that end. But, yeah, for me, the season for the Dragons is still quite a good one. It's unfortunate that Zach Lomax, once again, he's been amazing all season, and just knowing that they lose him next season, I can't recall how many signings or who the Dragons have coming in next season, but replacing Zach Lomax is going to be a hard one. Do you think Valentine Holmes is the man for them?
Yeah, look, I thought Holmes may have been coming to the Roosters, but I think with the connection he has with Flano, I think the Dragons is the obvious choice. And I think he obviously takes that spot straight from Lomax, and he has the goal kicking as well. So I think they'll land Holmes, and if not the Dragons, then the Chooks.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I think it could be a great little signing for them. I'm not sure if he will replicate Lomax's form, especially the work Lomax has got through and the aerial targets and everything. But you do get a premier winger. To me, Holmes on the wing is still his best position. It's just, the money that you pay for him on the wing, is he worth that much? But you get one of the better wingers in the competition, one of the best goal kickers in the competition. And back under Shane Flaken, who we won a comp with, we know what he can produce. So I don't hate it. They're also rumoured to get Big Red, Corey Horsburgh. I think that could be a great, addition to their forward pack. So with them and Damien Cook, there's a few good additions coming to them in the next couple of seasons. So we'll have to see where they can go. I'm holding out a bit of hope for the Dragons nowadays. Unfortunately, a team I'm not holding too much hope out for is the next game. The Warriors going down to the Dolphins, 34-32 in Golden Point. Now, I was actually at work for this one, which, I wasn't too upset about. I checked the score at about halftime and saw we were down 20-6. I'm like, oh, yeah, good. I'm glad I'm not effing watching. And then went to check the score, towards the back end of the game and saw it was 32-all with about 2 minutes to go. And I'm like, right, I'm taking my break to watch the rest of this game. And then, put myself through the heartbreak of just watching extra time and watching us lose. That was great. But you got to shout out Sean O'Sullivan for that 40-metre field goal from the sideline to beat us. What'd you make of that, mate?
Mate, what a game. I mean, this is another one we talk about of a team giving it away. I mean, Dolphins had that one. And I was the same as you. I watched the halftime. It was 20-6, and I thought, oh, Dolphins have got this easy. Even in the second half, the Dolphins started red hot, and I thought this is going to be about 50-6 at the moment. Credit to the Wars, the way they came back in this game. Mitch Barnett, mate, he has been so good this year, and he just keeps on going and going. And he's been my Wars player of the season. I think he has been incredible, and he made my team of the week in the front row. I know you had slightly different, but I had Mitchy Barnett again. Just, tons of meters, lots of tackles, got himself a nice try as well. But, mate, that 2-point field goal, it's Nathan Cleary-like. I mean, Sean O'Sullivan, obviously he played at Penrith, but to sort of have that vision in Golden Point, in Golden Point you just need one. You just need just a field goal from 10 out is fine. But to go 40 out, and they were not expecting that at all, the Wars, and he just slotted it home, and good on him.
Oh, 100%, mate. Look, you can't even really be too disappointed about it when you're doing it from that far away, a player coming off the bench to do that from the sideline. I think we tackled Nicarima over towards that sideline on the fifth tackle, and I'm like, thank God. That means they're not winning this set. If they're going to win the game, it's going to be in a couple sets from now. But then, Sean O'Sullivan just calls for the ball and nails it. I'm like, what the fuck is that? You can't, you can be disappointed, as I am as a Warriors fan, but when it's something like that, just sheer brilliance, you just got to clap your hands to it and shout out Sean O'Sullivan. If he's had a pretty rocky season, or rocky career, I should say. He's definitely been a player of talent. Lots of injuries have sort of shut him down. Started at your Roosters. He was at my Warriors as well. Broncos, Panthers, here at the Dolphins, but that will stick with him for the rest of his life. He will keep that one close to his chest, and fair play, he deserves that. But look, I don't know what there is left to say about the Warriors, to be honest. I thought Tamari Martin at halfback had a brilliant game. I thought we were going to be...
Yeah.
I didn't really give us too much of a chance with Sean Johnson ruled out. I thought if we were to win this one, a lot of it was going to be playing off the emotion of Sean Johnson's retirement and hoping that, we'll send him off with a big one. And then when he was ruled out, I'm like, is that emotion going to be there? Can they get up for this one in Brisbane? They didn't really, but, they sort of came back in that second half and, took it to them. It's just you can't give away leads that big and really expect to win from it. So, I don't know. It's been a disappointing year for the Warriors. I don't know what we go from here. Tamari Martin had a great game, but the goal-kicking side of things and even just general play kicking from the Warriors at the moment, I don't know if Chanel Harris-Tavita and Tamare can be the halves moving forward. And I love both players. So, yeah, I don't know what the Warriors do from here. So, what do you think about them, mate?
Mate, you got a boy who's been injured, but he's sitting in New South Wales Cup ready to come back. Luke Metcalf. Now,
Yes.
Luke Metcalf, what a player. Mate, he will be your 5'8" next year, along with Martin at half. I just think, as much as I like Harris-Tavita, I think he's more a 14 or an 18. I don't think he plays in the team at all. But I'd have Metcalf. You've also got Jet Cleary, who is playing flag at the moment, carving up in flag, and he'll bide his time, but could we see Jet Cleary make an appearance next year? Could he come through the grades that quickly and be just as good as Nathan? I mean, only time will tell. But I don't think it will doom and gloom for the Wires, mate. You got big Fish coming over next year. Of course, he'll replace Fanua Blake. But I think Luke Metcalf is what you need to ride this team on. I think Metcalf, we know what he did at Cronulla. He's a fantastic player. And having him and Martin in the halves, I think they'll go a long way.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're hitting the nail on the head once again, mate. I am a massive Luke Metcalf fan. And the thing is, we can coincide a lot of where the season goes wrong on a lot of things. But when we had a good vein of form in the early parts of the season, it was actually Luke Metcalf coming up with amazing plays as well. So to lose him for such a long period of this season, it was really detrimental to us. Obviously, they essentially touted him from really early in preseason, saying he's going to be the partner despite having CHT and Tamare Martin in the club. They said, it's Luke Metcalf and Sean Johnson because of how good he is. So we've lost him for the majority of the season. When he comes back, I think it'll be great for us. As you said, mate, Jet Cleary moving into the next few seasons. Hopefully, maybe we fast-track him depending on how results go. And James Fisher-Harris coming over to the club. He's going to be a massive one. Obviously, losing Adam Fanua-Blake is awful, and I've said that so many times on this podcast. But, God, there's probably no forwards I would like to run at less than running into the teeth of Mitch Barnett and James Fisher-Harris, mate.
And, mate, I don't think you lose Fanua Blake, but you've sort of upgraded. I mean, Fanua Blake's a great front rower, but to go to probably the best front rower in the comp at the moment in Fisher-Harris and probably Moses Leota it's incredible. So, the Wires have done really well to land Big Fish.
Yeah, no, when the announcement came that we're losing Adam, I'm like, there's literally two players in the comp who I think we can replace him with, and I didn't think we were a hope of getting a Haas or a Fisher-Harris. So to get Fisher-Harris is pretty incredible. Look, as I said, there's not too much to say for the Warriors. It's another game that they lose by 6 or less points, and there's been too many of them this season. If they win half of them, we're in the 8 pretty comfortably. So, what can you say? We didn't deserve to win the game in the first place, giving up too much of a lead. But the Dolphins, this is a big win for them because this gets them back into the top 8, albeit only just, but it gives them a glimmer of hope that they can go the rest of the way. They do have a tough draw to come, mate. What do you reckon about the Dolphins?
Mate, I don't think they make the 8. I think they'll finish just outside. Their attack is good, but it's what we've been talking about with this defense. I mean, they almost let this game go. When you're up by so much, you need to be putting these games away. You need to be putting teams to bed, and they're not doing that. We saw them against the Titans a few weeks ago. They're up 14-0, and they lost that game. So I think, I don't know if Bennett's asleep in the coach's box because of his age, but the Dolphins need to fix something and need to fix it quick if they're going to make a statement in this top 8. Yeah,
100%. Look, whether or not they do make the top 8 or not, I still think it's another successful season for them. In their second year. But they do need to iron these ones out. To be leading 20-6 at halftime and to let the Warriors come back and score 26 points in that second half is pretty scary stuff. Another thing is, Warriors scored more tries than them. They just missed 2 goals. They kick either of those 2 goals, the Warriors win the game again. So, the Dolphins...
What ifs, mate? What ifs?
Yeah, what ifs, mate? Look, I don't want to live on them. I really don't want to worry about them too much. They hurt me, but the Dolphins. Sorry, there's a few concerns, but in the end, they got the job done and they scored a few points. So you gotta love that, mate. I thought Herbie Farnworth for them absolutely outstanding once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's actually been a bit quiet. I thought he started the season relatively quiet, but he's really built into this team. Of course, we saw what he did at Brisbane, and he was probably one of the premier centres in the game. So I think he's just an incredible player. And that long distance try he got, he wasn't even puffing when he put the ball down. He just stopped and he was happy to go again. I mean, I'm definitely not that fit.
God, no, mate. No, I'm not. I'm not there either. I also don't have the pace of a Herbie Farnworth, to be fair.
No.
Yeah, that's why he's an NRL player and I'm not, I suppose. But yeah, he's
exactly
an absolute gun. I don't even know how you defend him. I can't even put too much onus on the Warriors players not defending well there. I'm just like, how do you defend a player of his quality? He's an absolute gun. Cody Nikorima, mate. I also think he's been pretty unheralded for the Dolphins this season. He's complemented Isaiah Katara in the halves really well. And I didn't think Cody had that in his game. I really thought Cody was a good 14 who could cover a few different positions, but he's really settled into that 5'8" role and he's really freed up this Dolphins attack. I thought he was really good as well, mate.
Yeah, mate, I completely agree with you. I didn't have him as a starting 5'8" at all. Of course, a few at the club, I thought Sean O'Sullivan probably slots in there. But Wayne Bennett always sees these things and he sees certain players that he knows he can get the most out of. And Cody Nikorima is one of those players. I mean, not to be disrespectful to Cody, but he hasn't really been much over the past few seasons. And then he's come to the Dolphins and he's just absolutely changed his game. So I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's playing under Bennett or what it is, but he's killing it at the moment.
Yeah, it's got to be the Wayne Bennett factor, as is with most players. He's the super coach for a reason, but yeah, really love what he's been doing this season. Isaiah Katara as well. We always have to mention him. Another really good game from him, but yeah, look, as I said, Dolphins, they do get the job done against a Warriors team that was playing with a bit of emotion. So you can look at it a few ways, and in the end, you just got to be happy that they got the win and got it done with a pretty hectic way to finish. You got to love that, to be honest. At least it's a highlight for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Look, whether they stay in the top 8, it remains to be seen, but fins up.
Fins up, baby. All right, that moves us into the last game of the round. The Knights defeating the Tigers 34-18 at home, Newcastle. I didn't get to see this one live. I saw it live over the phone, but didn't get to go to this one, unfortunately, at work. But yeah, really good game from the Knights. They needed a victory like this. Unfortunately, I did think they would stamp their authority a bit more on the Tigers here. What do you actually make of their performance?
Well, I tipped the Knights, but I was expecting the Tigers to really stand up in this game. I thought, that they need one win to be equal with the Eels, and then round 27 we got the Battle of the Spoon. But at the moment, the Tigers are still one below them. So, look, I expected the Tigers to step up, but on Newcastle's end, McDonald Jones is becoming that fortress that we were talking about earlier with GIO. I think McDonald Jones have got such a good record there, and especially Sunday Arvo games. The Knights love a Sunday Arvo. And it was another Sunday Arvo, a dry track. Caleb Ponga, get him into space. He is gone. But, mate, Fletcher Sharp, 4 tries. They were so high on David Armstrong, and it sort of just jumped off. And you can see why they jumped off, because they had this guy in the wings who was just waiting for his chance, and hasn't he taken it?
Mate, 100%. I actually think that, to me, Fletcher Sharp was always next in line. He just had a bit of I think it was a calf injury when Ponga went down originally. And now David Armstrong, he took it with both hands. Obviously departing the club, heading over to the Super League, which I think is gutting, because I thought he was fantastic. And I think any club could have been improved by signing him and nurturing him. It's just a shame that the Knights had such good depth in that fullback position with him, Kalen Ponga, and Fletcher Sharp. But getting Sharp a run on the wing here, I didn't think he was ever really going to be suited to a winger. I'm a massive Fletcher Sharp guy. He's from Cessnock, so just around the corner from where I live. Love him coming through the juniors. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar, but I didn't know if he could cut it as a winger. But to score 4 tries, and some of them that kick try where Kalen Ponga essentially dropped the ball and kicked it, and Fletcher kicks it again, that is all time. If you guys didn't see that one, go do yourselves a favour and watch that. Yeah, he very much made more than a fist of being on the wing with 4 tries, mate. And very much, it could be a little bit of a home there, because I don't see a world where he's really, taking the fullback position off Ponga. So if he can nail down that wing position, he's an absolute gun to have in your team, Fletcher Sharp. You've got to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you talk about that kick try. It was just the speed. He kicked the ball and he easily got past the fullback of the Tigers to finish it off. But yeah, mate, incredible player, and he's one for the future.
100%, mate. Love seeing what he's doing. For the rest of the Knights team, Kalen Ponga thought he was good, but again, didn't really think that he really stamped his authority on the game. Not that he had a bad game as well. Maybe it's just the expectations we have of Kalen Ponga. But the Knights, I think it was a bit masked at the end of last season. Their attack was just running. It was just all Kalen Ponga's form. I don't think their attack has really flowed all that well all season this year. I think it's been very flat, very boring, and they just rely on KP to come up with moments of brilliance. They did that on a few occasions in this one, which was how they scored these 34 points. There's still issues there for me, though, because I don't think their halves are really creating enough opportunities for them.
Mate, they don't know who their halves are. It's Gamble and Crosland, then it's Cogger, then it's Hastings. The sooner they can get sorted with who their halves are, the better. And I think they need to have that stability because, as you said, that they're not getting the results at the moment. So if they don't have stability, the results won't come.
100%, mate. Look, over to the Tigers. There's not a whole lot to say for the Tigers this season. They weren't awful once again, but these are the sort of games that it shows they've had a really tough season. I really have hope for them, and I still really don't want them to finish with the wooden spoon, but unfortunately, I do think they're the team most deserving of it, unfortunately. Eels have been putting together a few good performances, and they're one win away from the Tigers now as well. If the Tigers were to beat them in round 27 when they verse each other, I think the Tigers need to beat them by about 50 for the for and against to have them off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, mate, but I think the Tigers need another win before that to even be more secure. But I really feel for the Tigers. I have a real soft spot for them. I think everyone feels sorry for them because they're two wooden spoons in a row, about to get their third. It's Penrith, mate, 3 in a row. But the team's not bad. They've got the players and they've now got the coach and the former club legend in Benji Marshall. But to me, that just shows that it's a culture thing. It's a culture thing at the club where it doesn't matter who you've got. The team cannot prosper. The team cannot rise. So the sooner they work that out, and I think it's going to be more of the same next year. Everyone talks about Luai coming over, Taruva coming over, but unless you change the culture of the club, unless Luai can have the effect that Crichton's had at the Dogs, the club is not going to change. The culture's still there, the management's still there, and unfortunately, a fish rots from the head, mate. So, if the head of the organisation is the one causing all the problems, then that's where it begins. That's where you need to cut ties. And I think, unfortunately, the Tigers just have they've had a terrible run of recruitment, and just some of the people that they bring into their management spots have just not done the job for them.
For me, it's an accountability sort of thing. I've kept a firm eye on it all season, but especially in this game, they have this game plan, and you know what? They execute it not even that bad, where they can actually get through their sets and they can complete their sets and put in a decent kick. Aiden Caesar, I think he's got a pretty underrated kicking game when he's out there for the Tigers and not spending 4 weeks on the sideline at a time through suspension. But when they execute these things, every single time, first or second tackle after they've put in a great kick and they're trying to keep the opponents down their end, penalty, offside, penalty holding down too long, penalty, some grubby shit on the face. And then no one's being held accountable for that. There's no repercussions for it's a cardinal sin, especially if you're a forward and it's your outside backs giving away those penalties. If you're the one you're huffing and puffing and you're doing all this hard work and you've put in this great stuff and then an outside back gives away a penalty and you have to turn around back, it's so, I don't know, it's gutting as a forward, like playing footy. So the fact that it's just consistent for them every single week, week in, week out, in every set, essentially, they're always giving away these just relieving penalties to get their opponent out of trouble. I think the Tigers, more often than not, they beat themselves, and that's the worst part about it. They do have a quality sort of team in there. They've got good players in good positions. You look at their team on paper, it's not that bad. To me, it's not a wooden spoon winning roster, but just those players aren't meeting expectations at the moment. And look, I don't want to be too harsh on them as well. As you said, you've got a soft spot for them. I think we all do. Nobody wants to see them win 3 wooden spoons in a row, but look, I think they will. And as I said, I think they're unfortunately deserving of the wooden spoon this year. So we'll have to see. Hopefully they can get a few good wins to finish off the season. I'd love nothing more than that. But yeah, it's just been a tough old season for the Tigers, and there's really not too much to touch on. I really hope that the signings of Taruva and Jerome Luai can bring some sort of hope for the team next season, though, mate.
Yeah, me too, mate. Look, the one thing I would love to see would be the Tigers to come back strong and all the critics to be silenced. I think that'd be the best thing. Jareem the Dream Bua, for me, he's incredible. And if they can work their game around Jareem, they'll go a long way to being successful as well.
100%. I think he's had maybe a little bit of a down year compared to his explosive debut year, but I also thinking he's been warming into the season and getting really good, or just better and better as the season goes on. But as you mentioned, mate, they're not really building a game plan around him. It's sort of just hope that he can get involved whenever they put on some attacking structure. And I think they do just need to get him involved in whatever way that they can. He's so fast. He's really big. Like, for someone of his speed and his age, he's quite solid, quite tall. Like, he can break tackles and do a lot of crazy stuff. So I'd love to see them get him more involved heading into the future. I really hope Jerome Luai can unlock that. Originally, when they signed Luai, I didn't think it was the right move. I didn't think he was the sort of culture they needed. I didn't think he was the leading half they needed, especially with Lockie Galvin showing his colours at 5'8". But seeing Luai, what he did this season while Nathan Cleary was out, I do have a lot more hope that he can be something for them and be quite good, but it all sort of remains to be seen. Unfortunately for the Tigers, no matter who they've brought over, they haven't had that effect. Even someone like Api Coruscant, who they brought from that same Penrith system and who's been made the captain, I think he's been their best player since he's arrived. It hasn't turned them around, so it sort of remains to be seen. The only other player in their roster I wanted to give a shout-out for this game was Solomon Fatape. Now, at the beginning of the season, they brought him from Brisbane Tigers in Queensland Cup, I believe it was. And, he was sort of just making up numbers. It was good to get his debut. He didn't really feel first-grade ready. But as the season's progressed through injuries and whatnot, he's got more of an opportunity. And in this game, had a couple of defensive lapses, which he's going to have. It's still a rookie season for a club that can't tackle in the first place. But I thought he had a lot of good moments as well in this one. So I wanted to give Solomon Fatape a quick shout-out. But, yeah, was there anyone else for the Tigers that stood out for you, mate?
Not really, mate. I thought Lockie Galvin was good again. He's been good pretty much all year, and unfortunately he's had a couple of suspensions. Otherwise, he would have been in line for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
I think it was just that first one. What was it? Was it a lifting tackle? Yeah, was it the 2 weeks? It was either a lifting tackle or a hip drop tackle, and that just 2 week suspension ruled him out. Don't get me started on that. I think that's a piss take. For me, he is the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And I think, there's been a great couple of rookies this season. We mentioned Ethan Strange. We mentioned Sam Hughes, Jack Bostock. They've all been great. I think Lockie Galvin has been extraordinary, and it sucks that he's not going to get that Rookie of the Year award. But he is hopefully the future of the Tigers. I know there was a bit of conjecture about him wanting out of the club and whatnot. It sounds like he's really committed and he really wants to be the face of this club and be the man to lead them out of it. And that's a great sort of attitude to have, especially for someone of his age. So, yeah, really exciting stuff for the Tigers in regards to him. Hopefully they can build a bit of a club around him and they can get out of this dark time. But it's not 2024, unfortunately, for the Tigers. But, yeah, let's hope it's not too far down the track. Mate, that one wraps us up for the review section of the podcast. Before we wrap things up, let's do a few tips heading into next week, shall we? So we'll just get your tip. Maybe the same thing that you did. We'll get a tip, a try scorer, and margin of the games heading into round 24, starting with the Panthers and the Storm. Thursday night, I should say, second and first in Bluebet Stadium, Penrith. What a game to kick things off. Who have you got, Joey?
Mate, game of the round, first versus second is going to be an absolute beauty of a game. Mate, I think I'm going Penrith. I've been impressed with both, but obviously a bit sloppy from both the past couple of weeks. But I think Penrith can get this done. And at home, it is one of their last home games before the stadium is finished as well, while it gets a renovation. So that'll also play into the Panthers' hands a bit. I think they can get it done Thursday night footy. The Panthers will love a night game as well. So I'm going to go Panthers in a tight one. Panthers by 2. I'm going to go Brian Toto double in this game.
Wow. Look, that is pretty outrageous, but tell you what's not outrageous is picking the Panthers to win it. As you said, both sides, they're first and second for a reason, but both have been playing some scrappy footy. I think the deciding factor for me is just who I trust more to stand up in the biggest of big games. And as we've seen over the past 3 seasons, 4 if you want to count 2020, it's the Panthers for me. So I'm going to back the Panthers as well. I'll back them 1-12. I'm not going to go as close as 2 points, but it very much could be within 6 points. It just has that sort of feel about it. In terms of a try scorer, I always like going the man who's marking up against Nick Meaney, who would be... I think it'd be the other centre, would it? No, it might be Tungo. Regardless, I'm not going to do it because of recent weeks. I think Meaney's been actually quite decent defensively. So I'm going to go a little bit rogue, and I think Isaiah Yeo is going to crash over for a try in this one through the middle. So that's where I'm heading with that one. We go into the next game. The Manly Seagulls take on the New Zealand Warriors, 6th versus 14th, 4 Pines Park in Sydney. Who have you got, mate?
Mate, I can't go past Manly at Manly. I think they're so strong at 4 Pines Park, and I think they'll get this done. Unfortunately, against your Mars, mate, hopefully Sean Johnson is back and the Warriors can win for their spiritual leader. But for me, I think Manly too strong. I'm going to go Manly by about 10 in this game. And if I had to put a try scorer on, I think I might go Daly Cherry Evans to sneak over.
I like that, mate. Look, even with Sean back, I think I will also be taking Manly. It could be a bloodbath. I really hope it's not. I really hope we stand up. You know what? I hope we get another draw as we did earlier in the season with this team. When we're on, but we haven't been on enough to really let me pick my own team. So I'll take the Seagulls. I'll take them 1-12 in hope, but yeah, who knows? They might put 50 on us. In terms of a try scorer, I always like a Luke Brooks one, but he's done a couple recently that I don't think I can do it again. So where am I going to go? You know what? I think I'm just going to have to go with Ola Kawatu to cross for a try in this one for the Seagulls.
Very nice, mate. Very nice.
Next up, mate, we've gone from my team to yours. The Roosters take on the Eels, 3rd versus 16th, Allianz Stadium, Sydney. Tip, bet, what have we got?
Mate, Roosters off the bye. I think they get this done quite convincingly. We talk about Parramatta standing up against the likes of Penrith, but that is their arch rival. Against any other team, I think I don't know if Parramatta make 20 points. So I'll be going the Chooks, of course, in this game. I think they win by about 20 points in this one. And I'm going for a Joey Manu double and Tedesco anytime.
Wow, Jesus. Throw some money on that if you're really a betting man. Look, I'll also be taking the Roosters. I am also going to take them 13+ in this one. I think, as you said, off that bye, they have been leaking a few too many points. So I'm hoping this is where they just go, you know what, we need to be ruthless and we need to fix it up.
Yeah.
The main thing is they can score their points. They normally are ruthless. The problem is they just sit there and go, oh, well, we've put out this lead. Let's just lay off. I think this will be a game where they put out that lead and they go, nah, we're keeping it up. So I'll take Roosters 13+. In terms of a try scorer, I do like the Joey Manu shout. 2 tries is a bit outrageous, but I do like him for a try scorer. I will, however, go for... I'll go Brandon Smith to score a try up the guts against the Eels in this one. He is my try scorer for that game. Mate, moves us into the Bulldogs and the Dolphins, 5th versus 8th at the moment. Bundaberg, this one takes place, despite it technically being a Bulldogs home game. Who have you got, mate?
Mate, this is a danger game for the Dogs because they've been so strong at Belmore all year and haven't lost a game at Belmore at home. But as you said, this goes to Bundaberg. Familiar territory for the Dolphins. They obviously play in Queensland every week. I think I'm going to back the Dogs. It depends how many beers I have Saturday. That could definitely change. But at the moment, I'll go the Dogs in a tight one. Dogs by 6. And try score, I'll throw the hammer for 1 and Stephen Crichton for 1 as well.
Really like everything you've said there. I'm going to tip the Dogs as well, which means evidently I'm going to get it wrong because I can't tip the team to save my life. But I'll back them to get it done. I need to really stop doubting them. In saying that, if there is a team that can really attack and get through this Bulldogs defense, it probably is the Finns. I really like the Hammer shout. I really like the Stephen Crichton shout. He'll be up against Herbie Farnworth, which is going to be a fantastic duel on that side. The two centers of the year from 2023. So I'm excited to see that. In terms of try scores, you know what? I'm going to back them both in against each other. That'll be a Herbie Farnworth and Stephen Crichton score tries in this one. Excited to see that. Mate, let's get into the Cowboys and the Raiders, 7th versus 11th, Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. Who have you got?
Mate, Cowboys have bounced back after last week. That poor showing against the Broncos, I think they'll be regretting that. Toddy Payton will have them fired up. We're going Cowboys in this one. I think it'll be tighter than everyone thinks. I would just say Cowboys by 8. And if I'm going for a couple of try scorers, Kay Weeks has been on fire at the moment, so I like Weeks for 1, and his opposite number, Scotty Drinkwater, as well.
I like that, mate. I will also be going the Cowboys. I swear I'm not copying you. I'm going to go a bit more out there, though. I'll go the 13 plus for them to bounce back in a massive way. And I'm going to go for a try scorer of the opposite team. I think Ethan Strange crosses for 1 in this game. That moves us into West Tigers taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. 17th versus 15th in Campbelltown Sports Stadium, Sydney. Can the Tigers get a win here, mate?
Mate, I've taken them. I think they can.
I love it.
Yes, I obviously being a Roosters fan, I don't mind seeing Souths lose, and so I'm going to back the Tigers in this one. I think with Latrell out, I don't think Souths can win another game. He is the key to them winning it. We saw when he was back in the squad, they won 6 in a row, and then as soon as he was injured, they went back to losing. So I'm going to back the Tigers in this. I think they can get it done. I think if they channel their inner Roosters or inner Melbourne, they'll win this game. But I'm going to go Tigers by 1 point. I'm going to say field goal in it. Lockie Galvin to kick the field goal. And if I'm going for a try scorer, I'm going Charlie Staines on the wing.
Mate, I love everything you've said there. I'm also backing the Tigers. I'm not sure if they do get it done, but it's vibes. They're going to get it done. They deserve They deserve it. Their fans deserve it. I hope they get the game done. I'd love the narrative that you wrote there for the Tigers to get it done by field goal and Lockie Galvin to do it. I think that'd be unreal. I'm not going to be bold enough to predict it, but I will say, you know what? No, I'm going to be bold and go the other way. I'm going to go Tigers 13 plus to beat the Bunnies here. Ooh. And I'm going to go Aiden Caesar for a try for the Tigers. Oh, actually, he might not be named because of the injury he picked up. So if he is named, I'll go Caesar. If not, I'm going to lock in Adam Dewey to score a try against his former club. Mate, that brings us into the Dragons and the Titans. This is a very interesting one, this. So 9th versus 13th, also in Wollongong. Who have you got?
Mate, as I said before, I cannot tip the Dragons this year. They are so hot and cold. At the Gong, I really like what I'm seeing from them. Not so much last week, but previously. The Titans, well, we spoke about them. I was so high on them. Oh, this is a toss of a coin. Again, depending on how many beers. But you know what? I'm going to back the Tits. I'm going to go to the Titans in this game. I think they can get it done. I think Desi will have them absolutely fired up after last week. Not scoring a point will be probably a detriment to the Dragons because I think the Titans are going to come out hard. I'm going to say Titans 13 plus in this game. I think they're going to come and make a statement. And I'm going to go David Fafita for a double.
Mate, that is interesting. At least we've got something different here because I'll be taking the Dragons in this one. I reckon they get it done 1-12. I do love the David Fafita double. That is a great shout. I won't do it myself. Who will I go for a try, though? You know, I like Luciano Leilua and Philip Sammy for tries in this game. Not knowing any odds, I'm just backing them off the gut as I have been with everything else. But I think Dragons in Wollongong get this one done playing for their season. So that's where I go. And that brings us into the last game of round 24. The Sharkies take on the Knights, 4th versus 10th in PointsBet Stadium, Sydney. Who have you got, Joey?
Mate, I'm going to back the Knights. Sharks were really good last week, 44-0. Knights weren't that impressive against the Tigers, but I'm just not on the Sharks. I'm just not on them this season. I think they've been pretenders over the past few weeks, and I'm really sorry if Jai listens to this. He's going to kill me. But mate, I'm back in Newcastle. I think we talked about it last week. There was no Braden Trindle for that game, and they somehow won. I think against a Knights outfit, a good Knights outfit, I don't think that's the case in this one. I think Knights can get this done. Knights by 4, Knights by 1 try. And if I'm looking at try scorers, I'm going to go Will Kennedy and Kalen Ponga to score any time.
I like the try scorers. I don't like the tipping. I will be taking the Sharkies. I'll be taking them 13 plus, to be honest. The Knights, for me, are the most disappointing team in the entire competition. Oh, no, let's be real. I guess the Eels probably are, but the Knights, Eels and maybe Rabbitohs, but no, Knights, I just don't feel anything watching their footy. Even when I'm tipping them, I'm like, wow, they scored a try. That's so cool. For me, if the Titans couldn't score a point against the Sharks, I don't see a world where this Knights team can. So I'm taking Sharks 13 plus, and that leads me to a try scorer of, let's go with, look, I say it every week, so I'll do it again. I'm going to go Jesse Ramian for a double this week.
It's a good shout, mate. Good shout.
Beautiful. And that one wraps us up for the podcast, mate. Thank you very much for joining me. Do you want to tell the people where you are, how they can reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me on. It's been a privilege. Don't forget, you can check out the Ruck Infringement Podcast on all your social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn as well. And also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at the Ruck Infringement Podcast, of course. You can check out some merch as well. If you head over to Rugby League Merch, we've got our Nice Legends jerseys going as well. So check them out at rugbyleaguemerch.com. And that's where you can find us.
Beautiful, mate. Genuinely, guys, if you are not familiar with the Ruck Infringement Podcast, you have to go and give them a shout. Some of the best out there. Joey is genuinely one of the best hosts of a podcast I've ever seen. He's so natural at it. So, I'm being real, mate. It's been weird on the other end of the spectrum here hosting this one because you're just so natural at it. But genuinely, guys, go give them a listen. You won't regret it. Some of the best out there. They're going to pop off insanely high soon. So you want to be a part of that journey with them. It's crazy stuff over there. So love what you're doing, mate. And as I said, really, it's been a privilege having you on this podcast, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more work to do in the future heading into next season as well, mate.
Mate, absolutely. Mate, again, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers, mate. Rightio, guys, that one will wrap us up. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.